On the early evening of January 2nd, 2024, two planes collided on the runway of Haneda Airport in Tokyo. Remarkably, only 5 people were killed in the disaster. How did this happen? And how were there so many survivors? The two planes involved were a Japan Airlines Airbus A350 and a Japanese Coast Guard DeHavilland Dash8 turboprop. The Airbus was en route from Sapporo Airport with 367 passengers and 12 crew aboard. The Dash8, carrying 6 people, was departing for a relief mission to deliver aid to victims of the earthquake that struck central Japan on New Year's Day. Haneda Airport, also called Tokyo International Airport, is one of the 2 international airports that serve the Greater Tokyo area. Japan Airlines and All Nippon Airways, the country's 2 biggest domestic airlines, use it as their main hub. The airport has 4 runways, but most of the time only 2 main runways, A and C, are used, depending on the wind conditions. At 5:45 p.m. on the evening of January 2nd, the Japanese Coast Guard Dash8 was told by air traffic control to hold its position on the taxiway that connects to the 34 right runway. 10 seconds earlier, the Japan Airlines Airbus had been cleared to land on that same runway. For some unknown reason, the Dash8 plane continued onto the runway, directly into the path of the incoming Airbus. Air traffic control's transcripts, released January 3rd by Japan's Ministry of Transport, detail the following conversations. Tower JA722AC. Number 1, taxi to holding point C5. Surveillance video showed that the Japanese Coast Guard plane moved onto runway 34R and stopped, something it would be expected to do if the pilot was expecting takeoff clearance. Almost a minute after the Coast Guard plane stopped, JAL 516, having touched down moments earlier, crashed into the Dash8. The Airbus, now engulfed in flames, continued down the runway, as captured in airport CCTV footage. The Airbus finally came to a stop 1,680 meters, 5,510 feet, further down the runway. 15 passengers on board the JAL flight required medical attention. None of the 3 pilots on board were able to see the Dash8 sitting on the runway due to the darkness, and could not therefore execute a go-around. They also had no idea that the plane was on fire until the purser entered the cockpit to report the grim news. The order to evacuate was given. Emergency slides were deployed from the 2 front exits. However, only one emergency exit at the back of the plane could be used. With the flight attendants unable to communicate with the cockpit, they gave up receiving instructions and instead opened the exit and deployed the emergency slide. None of the Airbus's 379 passengers and crew were killed. But how? Aviation analysts believe the Airbus A350's carbon fiber material, instead of aluminum, made it burn slower and saved lives. This is a very different outcome from past runway incursions with a passenger jet and a small plane, like Los Angeles in 1991 and Milan in 2001. With the official investigation yet to get underway, the nagging question remains. Why did the Japanese Coast Guard Dash8 ignore air traffic control and venture onto the runway?